If you knew that tomorrow would never come, what would you do with the breath you have left today? Because heaven is whispering, no, shouting, now is the time. Time is the one thing we can never earn back once it's gone. Every breath, every heartbeat, every sunrise is a reminder that eternity is moving closer. The truth is, we live as though tomorrow is promised, but tomorrow is not guaranteed to anyone. Somewhere between our plans and distractions, we forget that life is fragile, and the clock of eternity keeps ticking. Each moment is a divine opportunity, a sacred space in which God calls us to awaken. The urgency you feel deep within your spirit isn't anxiety. It's the voice of heaven reminding you that time is sacred. It's God's gentle way of saying, come home while the door is still open. There's a holy weight in realizing how short our days are. We busy ourselves with endless pursuits, believing there will always be another chance, another day, another sign. But what if there isn't? What if the next sunrise never comes for us? The call of God is not meant to frighten us. It's meant to awaken us from spiritual sleep. It's not a threat. It's mercy disguised as warning. Love that waits too long to be answered eventually turns into silence. Not because love runs out, but because the time to respond has passed. The clock of eternity doesn't tick-tick to the rhythm of our comfort. It moves to the heartbeat of divine purpose. Every second carries meaning. Every moment of hesitation is a moment lost. The urgency you feel today may be heaven's final invitation before the door closes. So many souls wait for a perfect time to turn their hearts, not realizing that perfection is not a condition. It's a decision. God's call is not about fear. It's about love. It's His way of saying, I still want you. I still have room for you. The clock hasn't stopped yet, but it's close. The question is, will you answer before it strikes midnight? There's a voice inside you that you've tried to ignore, a whisper that follows you even when the world grows loud. It speaks in the stillness, in the quiet moments when your soul feels unsettled. That voice isn't guilt or imagination. It's grace. It's the divine call of God, reaching through the noise of your life, asking you to return. Every tug on your heart is heaven trying to pull you closer. But every time you silence it, that voice becomes fainter, not because God stops speaking, but because you've learned to tune Him out. The tragedy of life isn't that God stops calling, it's that we stop listening. You've heard that voice in your moments of loneliness, when everything around you felt empty despite your success. You've felt it when you were about to make a choice you knew was wrong. That deep unrest was not condemnation. It was love trying to protect you. The voice of God does not thunder to frighten, it whispers to draw you near. Yet, so often, people mistake conviction for shame. They run from the very presence that is trying to heal them. God's voice isn't asking for perfection, it's asking for surrender. He's saying, you don't have to carry this anymore. Come back to me. But every time you postpone that response, something in your spirit hardens. What was once a whisper becomes an echo, and what was once an echo can fade into silence. That silence is the most terrifying sound in all of creation. Not because God has stopped loving you, but because you have stopped responding. The same voice that once guided and comforted can one day be missed entirely. That's why the call is urgent. When the Spirit moves within you, That is the moment to act. Don't ignore it this time. Don't push it away. The voice you keep ignoring is the very one that's trying to save your soul. Listen, he's calling again, and this time it may be your last chance to answer. Tomorrow is the word we use to escape the truth of today. It feels safe, it feels distant, it feels like a promise, but it's an illusion. Tomorrow is a fragile dream we hold onto to delay obedience, to postpone surrender. Yet every tomorrow is built on a foundation that doesn't exist. The reality is, all we have is this moment, this heartbeat, this breath, this opportunity to respond to God's voice. The enemy doesn't always destroy with violence. Sometimes he destroys with delay. He whispers, "You have time," and in believing that lie, countless souls lose the chance to turn their lives around. The danger of waiting is subtle. You tell yourself you'll pray more. When life slows down, you'll forgive when you feel ready. You'll turn your heart back to God when things are less complicated. But that perfect time never comes. Life only grows busier, distractions multiply, and your heart grows colder. Every delay builds a wall between you and divine purpose. The tragedy is not in the sin itself, but in the postponement of repentance. The longer you wait, the harder it becomes to move. The heart becomes numb, and the whisper of grace grows faint. God never asked for perfection. He asked for today. He's not waiting for your life to be in order. He's waiting for your surrender now. Every command, every conviction, every gentle pull is meant for this moment, not a distant one. Letter is a dangerous word because it assumes control over time you do not own. The breath you're using now is borrowed. The future is not guaranteed. The call of heaven is always present, tense. It says, "Come now," not "Come eventually." The gates of mercy are open, but they will not stay open forever. If you can hear his voice today, respond today. Tomorrow may never come, and even if it does, your heart may not be the same. The time for obedience is not when it's easy. It's when it's called for. And that time is now. When God calls, he isn't looking for a reaction born out of fear or emotion. He's seeking a response that comes from conviction and surrender. There's a difference between reacting to God and responding to him. A reaction fades with feelings, but a response endures through faith. The divine call that stirs within your spirit is not an invitation to perform or prove your worth. It's a summons to realign your heart with truth. God isn't asking for your perfection. He's asking for your obedience. He's not waiting for you to have it all together before you come. He's calling you to come so that he can make you whole. Every person who encounters the voice of God stands at a crossroads. One path leads to transformation, the other leads back to comfort. But there is no neutral ground. Every time you hear that still, small voice, you're faced with a choice: to move closer to the light or to drift deeper into darkness. The response you give in that moment determines far more than you realize. Heaven's call is not casual. It carries eternal weight. When God reaches for you, it's not a suggestion. It's a moment that shapes destiny. Many people mistake temporary conviction for change. They feel moved for a moment, shed a few tears, and then return to their old ways. But the call of God isn't meant to stir your emotions. It's meant to shift your direction. Feelings fade, but decisions last. True response is costly. It asks for surrender, humility, and a willingness to trust what you cannot see. Yet that surrender brings the peace that no performance could ever achieve. God's call requires courage. It's not about saying the right words or looking the part. It's about opening your heart and saying, "Yes, I will follow." There's no partial obedience, no halfway commitment. The King has spoken, and his voice demands a reply. The only question is whether you will answer with hesitation or with faith. Because when heaven calls, silence is also a response. Saying yes to God may come with a price, but saying no will cost you everything. Obedience often feels heavy because it asks us to let go of control, to release the parts of our life we cling to most tightly. But what we fail to see is that the cost of obedience is temporary, while the cost of disobedience is eternal. Many resist God's call because they fear what they might lose: status, comfort, pride, or familiarity. But the truth is, those things were never meant to last. Every act of surrender may feel painful for a moment, yet it leads to freedom that no earthly pleasure can compare to. Disobedience, on the other hand, may seem easier in the beginning. It promises ease, independence, and control, but it delivers only emptiness. When you ignore what God asks of you, your soul starts to ache in ways you can't explain. You feel restless, unfulfilled, like something vital is missing. That's because rebellion always demands more than it offers. It takes your peace, your clarity, and your joy. The longer you resist the call, the heavier your heart becomes, until obedience, once difficult, starts to look like the only way home. God doesn't ask for obedience to restrict you. He asks for it to release you. His commands aren't burdens. They're boundaries that protect what is sacred within you. Every yes to him brings you closer to purpose, closer to the peace that the world cannot give. And though obedience may require sacrifice, it never leads to regret. The pain of surrender is temporary, but the pain of regret lasts far longer. There will come a day when the cost of your hesitation outweighs the cost of your surrender. That's why the choice must be made now. To obey is to trust that God's plan, though uncertain to you, is far better than anything you could create on your own. The path of obedience may begin with tears, but it ends in freedom. The path of disobedience begins with comfort, but it ends in chains. One costs you your pride, the other costs you your soul. Choose wisely. Choose obedience. Even now, when it feels as though the world is darkening and hope is fading, God's mercy still reaches out. The door of grace hasn't closed yet. It's still open for those willing to step through. Time may be short, but love still lingers. The hands of the divine clock tremble near midnight, yet God's heart continues to call, "Come home." That is the nature of his mercy. It waits longer than we deserve, and it reaches farther than we can imagine. But though mercy is wide, it is not endless in time. There comes a moment when patience gives way to justice, when the door that once stood open begins to close. Many people mistake God's patience for permission, thinking that delay means safety. But the truth is, the longer you wait, the smaller the window becomes. Every moment that passes without response is a moment closer to the end of opportunity. Still, grace is calling, even now. It whispers through your conscience, moves through your memories, and reaches into the quiet corners of your heart. It says, "There's still time, but not much. Choose life while you can." This final invitation is not born of fear, but of love. God doesn't want to lose you. He's not trying to scare you into faith. He's trying to awaken you before it's too late. The door of mercy was built by his sacrifice, and every second it remains open is a miracle. Don't assume it will always stay that way. The light that shines now will not burn forever for those who refuse to enter. Grace has stretched itself to the edge of time for you. The question isn't whether God still loves you. He always will. The question is whether you will respond while the call still echoes. Because one day, the silence will fall and the chance to answer will be gone. The door is open now. The invitation still stands. Step through before the last chime sounds, for eternity is waiting on your answer. When the final second of grace fades, and the last call of heaven is made, may it not be said that God was still calling, but that you finally answered.